Never been a millionaire, and I tell you, mama, I don't care.
I love his voice, I think it's fantastic.
It's earthy, it's raw, it's sexy, it's raspy.
It's one of the finest voices in rock, in popular music generally.
Rod Stewart, and he's great.
Ah, that's a good question. Prompt.
Cheers, Rod.
Don't you think I better get myself back home? Oh, yeah.
He's one of the boys.
So it was girls and cars and cars and girls. Nothing wrong with that, is there?
He's just a randy old sod and gets away with it every time.
Rod is a little insecure boy.
It all depends how good you are at shagging, really.
With more front than Harrods.
Get quiet over the back. We were trying to conduct a bloody interview here with the BBC.
Okay, I was drunk the whole time. I have no memory between 1969 and 1976.
I'm so sorry about that, viewers.
Don't you think I better get myself back home?
I am madly in love with Rod Stewart. He's handsome.
Yeah, baby. All right.
I have loved him since I was a little kid.
I've seen Rod 89 times. He's a fantastic performer.
And I'm going to touch him to watch.
Rod Stewart, God love him. With a bird on his arm and a song in his heart, Rod the Mod has been something of a national institution for over 3 decades. His Jack the Lad journey has been a magnificent blend of booze, barnets, big houses and bright blouses, of faces, football, fast cars and faster women. Not forgetting one of the most distinctive voices this island's ever produced. In early 1945, while the bombs were still dropping on Second World War London, Rod was born to Scottish parents Bob and Elsie. They ran a news agency in Highgate.
Tell your mother and your papa, I once was a schoolboy too.
He worked for my dad. Couldn't even get up in the morning to deliver papers, so that was a washout.
But Dad said to me, well, why don't you have a chat with him? He might listen to you. Tell him to, you know, settle down and get a decent job. Well, my talk did a lot of good, didn't it?
After drifting into assorted jobs such as apprentice footballer, grave digger and busker, Rod's big break came through a brief encounter with R&B band leader Long John Baldry.
I was going back to London, so was John, and we were both supposed to be going in the same direction back to London, although we were on different platforms. I think John was on the right platform because I was probably drunk.
On what seemed to be a pile of old coats and scarves, etc., was playing this harmonica riff. I thought, well, that sounds pretty good, sounds pretty authentic, sounds just like Howling Wolf, I'm saying. And then this nose appeared from the top of all these clothes.
And he shouted out, "Young man!" And he came running over the bridge and asked me to join his band as an opening singer, you know, at the pricely sum of £35 a week, which in those days, you know, in the early 60s was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. But did I know how to spend it? The Steam Packet, which was Julie Driscoll, Brian Auger, John Baldry and myself. We never had a hit record, we never even got into a studio, but we were so good live. It was a very hot band at the time.
He would have been, 21, 22, you know. I mean, I was in awe of him as a singer even at that early age. Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Long John Baldry taught me so much stagecraft. You know, one of the first things he ever said to me was this answer. He said, never stand at the microphone with your legs together. He said, it doesn't make you look confident. So it was the first thing he ever told me. One day I turned up to do a gig and I looked up and it's got Long John Baldry and the Hoochie Coochie Ladies and Rod the Mod Stewart, and that was it, and it stayed with me ever since.
And he was a mod in the sense that he was into black music, he dressed a certain way. He was very into his visual appearance, which all mods were, all mod boys were particularly. There was no other singer around that time that looked like he did.
After Steam Packet, Rod became a hired hand in the Shotgun Express, but joining the Jeff Beck group really pushed him into the limelight and launched his friendship and songwriting partnership with Ron Wood.
I know where I first met him, in the Intrepid Fox in Wardour Street. And he had a black eye. And he came up to me and he said, "Hello, Face, how are you?" Didn't know we were going to be in Faces together.
Basically, the Jeff Beck group is Led Zeppelin before Led Zeppelin have formed. I mean, you just put on those albums, Truth and Beckhole, and you hear Led Zeppelin.
With the Jeff Beck group, you know, with Jeff being such a wonderful guitar player and was so fluid, I think we bounced off of each other so well, we made each other very fluid. There was only one guitar, bass and drums, and a piano, so there were plenty of holes for me to sing in. Tremendous band.
And Rod and me had bussed across America with the Jeff Beck group, and Rod had made it as a vocalist and me as a bass player.
We used to, you know, write the songs in Ronnie's mum's council house, bless her.
You know, just get a riff going and he'd get words going. We still write like that today.
And we used to just sit round and have 2 bars of the heating on. Mrs. Wood used to come in and say, "Don't waste your electricity, turn that other bar off."
I've woken up on mornings such as this and thought exactly the same as I'm thinking now.
And that's where we wrote Plinth, in Ronnie's mum's council house.
My cold damp room looks worse than me. I got a fear of death that creeps on every night. I know I won't die soon, but then again I might. Just like water down the drain, I'm wasting away. And all doctors can't help, ghost of a man, that's me.
They all come out to groove about nice and have fun in the sun.
While the influential Jeff Beck group ran out of steam for Rod and Woody, another great British R&B band, the Small Faces, were also coming to an immediate but timely end.
It's all too beautiful.
The Small Faces in 1969 split up. So you've got these 3 individuals who were very, very bitter, quite disillusioned with it all, but got no choice but to carry on.
We actually booked a rehearsal studio, and Kenny, Ronnie and I went in there and with our road crew, set up our equipment and started to play, and it was really hopeless.
I was still with the Jeff Beck group. I think Woody had been fired by Jeff, and that, you know, hurt me a lot because we were good mates.
I got my secretary at the time to find out Ronnie Lane's number, and I just rang him up. You know, he didn't know me from Adam. I just said, "Come on, man, what are you doing? You know, you've got to keep your band together." He said, "Yeah, I know, but we ain't got a singer no more, a guitarist. Rod, do you want to have a go?"
One day Woody brought Rod down, and Rod became sort of part of the furniture, one of the lads who sit on the amps watching us.
He said, "Come on, let's give it a try." So I went down and sung a few songs, and that was it. The Faces were born. They were around the pub after that.
Yes, Judy, she was moody, but she never ever got her own way. Get me in the cornfield mid-afternoon, by the time she was cold and rosy.
It was the mods growing up, if you like. It was the mods being now football fans.
To actually develop into the Faces, if you see what I mean, and play some rawer, rougher, edgier stuff was great.
You know, you're 14 and 15 and you're being told, you know, if you don't get your O-levels, you'll be on the scrappy, you'll be down the factory, you know. And Rod and the Faces said, "Well, actually, no, there's something else going on over here."
I mean, I don't ever remember them being very sophisticated on stage. You always watched them and thought anything could happen, you know.
Mother, don't you recognize your son?
Woody and I were, I suppose, the two glamorous ones up the front, the singer and a guitar player. Ronnie Lane, I think, was really the engine of the group, because he really epitomised what the Small Faces and the Faces were all about. And he was the heart of it, because, you know, he's little Cockney guy, and had a really aggressive little drummer. And of course then was Mac, who just was a bit of all of us. But we all shared the same haircut, which was funny, and one hairdryer.
He was a face, but he also had a solo deal, and one of his early vocal performances brought him fame, but definitely not fortune.
I think one of the very first things I heard was In a Broken Dream, you know, the Python Lee Jackson thing, which was like, wow, this is amazing.
A mate of mine was running a small car sales showroom, and he said, I've got this demo. Well, totally unknown in those days. Got this demo, would you mind coming down and doing a vocal so I can get a singer to copy it? And I said, oh yeah, of course. So I did it, went down, did it in 2 takes.
Every day I spend my time.
There's no contract, no nothing. That's all I can remember, and out came this record. So that's all I know.
All I got paid was a set of carpets for my car. He said, you can take these. I said, well, that's fine, it only took me 10 minutes. And then, of course, it was released.
I think Rod was sort of duped into doing it, and then suddenly, of course, he became very famous, and bang, out it comes. And to this day, I still don't know who owns it or whose it is.
Cash-conscious Rod wouldn't make the same mistake again.
Maggie May is based on a truth. It was my first shag where I lost my virginity, and it lasted precisely 28 seconds. It was at the Bewley Jazz Festival when I was very young. Well, not by today's standards, but I was about 16. And I lost my virginity to this rather large girl. I don't think her name was Maggie, but that's what the song's all about. I wasn't a stud in those days, far from it. Hey.
Wake up, Maggie, I think I got something to say to you. It's late September and I really should be back at school.
I mean, Maggie May wasn't even supposed to go on the album. First of all, it was the last thing I wrote, and nobody seemed to like it because they said, oh, it hasn't got a chorus, you know, you can't remember how it goes. It was the B-side to Reason to Believe, and it was only a DJ in Cleveland that turned it over, made it the A-side, otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here in these wonderful surroundings of my library.
There aren't a lot of artists who have co-written songs, sung them and produced on the same album, and done so with such spectacular success.
Straight down the pub. Took everyone down the pub. I was very pleased because all my family, 2 brothers, my sisters, my mum and dad, they'd always given me such great support, you know, and lent me a few bob when I was broke, a couple of quid here and a couple of quid there, and helped me buy my first guitar. In fact, my dad bought me my first guitar for no apparent reason. So it was like, thanks all of you, and I've done it, you know. So that was wonderful. They were probably the first ones to know.
There you are.
I've been television license. Television license.
In their own way, they was very, very proud of him. I don't think they altogether agreed with his lifestyle, because there's no doubt about it, he was drinking and smashing up hotels and all this sort of business.
In the early 70s, Rod had the best of both worlds. He was trousering the cash from Maggie May, and he was also having a wild old time alongside his shag-haired muckers in the Faces.
That was the famous quote in The NME when they did an interview with me, and he said, Rod Stewart has a charmed life. Every night with the Faces is like New Year's Eve, and it was. It was always cause for celebration, just walking on the stage.
When we had a good night and we were all connected together and we were taking the same substance, I suppose, or drinking the same drink, you know, and we were on the same wavelength, there was nothing to touch us, you know. It was great. It was just brilliant.
I think one of the great things about the Faces was Woody's guitar. And that sound of his guitar with Rod's voice, it was just magical.
We used to wing it, you know, a lot. We used to go on stage and start, what are we going to do next, boys, you know?
Things are going to go wrong, people are going to play the wrong notes.
Okay, change now, you know. Go back. Take a solo. You're back in singing, Rod. Am I?
You won't need too much persuading. I don't mean to sound degrading, but with a face like that, you got nothing to laugh for, man.
They always felt like they was just about to kind of fall apart, but it just hung together somehow in a way that had a tension that was so good, you know.
And it was very sing-along. Once they got into bigger audiences, I mean, they did have that kind of laddish, communal, terrace sort of feeling about them.
I'll sing with you. Come on. All night long. Sit on the motor.
Although I'd never know it, we were probably much better live than on record. I'd love to have been in an audience to watch the band. I know I would have had a laugh.
Sorry about the morning. Please don't say you love me, 'cause you know I'll only kick you out the door.
Well, the lyrics, you know, they're just shagging lyrics, I suppose, really. I can't describe them any other way, and there was quite a bit of shagging going on in those days.
You know, as a kid kind of trying to get in the band, you can think, God, blimey, they get up to all that kind of hijinks, sounds great.
We all lived the story of that song, you know. It was a very free time, and there was drugs, and it all came into place, you know. It all fell into place very easily.
The great thing is there was lots of great women around. God, lovely, stunning.
We were all married, but I can only speak for myself here, where I say my marriage didn't stop me from shagging, you know, anyone I fancied. And girls were real keen and willing, and so was I.
Can girls and stuff, and they had a bar at the side of the stage.
With some of our roadies dressed in you know, white shirts and black waistcoats and the towel, and then coming up with drinks. Bar.
But when Kenny Jones is doing his drum solo, they all went and had a drink at the bar.
That was the main reason we used to put a drum solo in, and that is the main reason I put a drum solo in the show now, because I can creep off and have a quiet one.
After a while, I'd done my bit, and I thought, well, I'm getting tired now. You know, and I've done all the little licks I'm going to do, and I can't think of anything else, and I'm getting...
Kenny out there, he's looking around, getting more and more frantic.
And he's sort of going, you know, like, come back on out like that. And so they're all standing there watching him. And do you know what they did? Instead of going back on, they ordered another round of drinks.
So he used to push me to the limit. I mean, I think one time they went off for like nearly 15 minutes, I think. And I was absolutely shagged out, you know.
Kenny Jones.
Boozing has always been very much on the minds of the audience and the band with the Faces gigs.
We used to give out wine and champagne instead of having backup groups sometimes, you know. We'd just get the audience in the same state we were.
But it was never the idea just to get drunk. We were there to play, you know. And if one person was, you know, falling over, then we'd be on him, you know. they'd be on me if I was, you know. That did happen once or twice. We always had fun. I mean, sometimes at the expense of others, but we always had fun.
We all liked to party, we all liked to drink. Rod was the biggest piss taker of all time.
Who from you is Rod Stewart?
Yeah, he is. No, he is. No, he is. That's Rod Stewart. Isn't he great? Sure, this is the way it is.
And Woody, you know, and Mac wasn't far behind it, and nor was Ronnie Lane.
He's a great fellow. What did he say, Ron? Well, I don't know what he said. What did he say? Don't film it. What now? What about me? What did he say? What's that?
What, the Marx Brothers on the road? That's what they were, really.
Because we did share the same sense of humour and the same women sometimes, you know, on a dark night out on the road in Des Moines.
We used to take the whole audience most of the time back to the Howard Johnson Motel or wherever we were staying. We used to invite them, tell them where it was, have a big pool party, you know.
Billy Gaff is our manager. Oh, God bless him. He was kind of a dishevelled article, he was. He always looked like the world was just about to fall in on him, and we were the world, and we did.
What was it like on the Road of the Faces? Awful. It was a nightmare.
We used to get a pass key and go into his room and get as many people into his room as possible, in the cupboards, under the beds, out on the balcony.
A bit like the stateroom sketch with the Marx Brothers, you know, one more person, you know.
And then he'd come into his room as if nothing happened, all be really quiet, and suddenly, you know, given a certain signal,
everybody'd snip and open the door and there would be, in the pitch black, you know, bed up in there, boom, 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 the toilet set up so it floods, and
fire extinguishers, hose pipes,
doors falling off and legs cut off the bed.
But generally breaking rooms up, televisions thrown into swimming pools.
Oh, it's so many different things. It's just so many different things.
There were no strict rules to this, but it was always in fun.
Horrendous. That's it. Horrendous.
All we wanted to do was to socialize. Oh, you know it's a shame how they always get the
Rob was the instigator of everything. Whenever there was trouble, Stewart was at the forefront of it, right? But when everybody got arrested, he was nowhere to be seen. It's like, cause it all and run.
We definitely did a lot of hotel thrashing, and it was, in those days, it was genuine. You know, we didn't do it because we got an album coming out, let's get ourselves in the sun or the mirror. We did it because it was all, that's the way we felt. We were getting bad treatment from the hotels, so we just went mad, or were just terribly drunk and letting off a lot of steam. But it wasn't preconceived, you know, it was just generally off the top of our heads, let's go mad and smash the room up. And in those days, you used to just get a warning, you know, don't do that again, boys, throw that bed out the window.
The money that I spent paying hotel bills, hotel damages, was quite dramatic.
Apart from the Holiday Inn chains, I'm not sure what other chains we got banned from. We used to check in as Fleetwood Mac a lot, so that we could get in the hotels.
Then I think they got banned as Fleetwood Mac as well, so I don't know what happened when the real band Fleetwood Mac actually wanted to stay there.
We were always in a state of drunkenness or sobering up.
There were the faces going out, playing football on stage. You know, everybody, you know, like football's the new rock and roll in England now, but they was doing that back in the early to mid-70s.
Rod Stewart was openly football daft, uniting birds and blokes with those terrace sing-alongs. But for the bad influence of rock and roll, he could have played professionally. Instead, he was a fanatic face in the crowd watching his beloved Scotland.
I think, you know, footballers nowadays are a lot more like rock stars than they were in the old days, you know, but I do enjoy a glass of wine every night with my dinner, which you obviously can't do if you're a footballer. They used to in the old days when footballers were footballers, though. Training down the pub.
He would actually reroute a tour so that he could play a game.
These pictures on the wall up in my house, this is my house, of course, are all pictures of Dennis in different positions. Some on his back, some running around Hampden Park. 2 or 3 of them are signed by him.
Dennis Law was his idol. Yeah, he's Dennis Law on the field.
He was a good player, very skillful, and could have done really well if he had gone into it sort of full time.
I copy Dennis when I play football because I always, play with the shirt pulled down like that.
I think it was basically, to do that was to wipe my nose, because this sleeve was always brick hard. This one was always, so I never wiped it with my left. Plus the fact that I always felt the cold, so I couldn't wear gloves, could I?
This is a big hero of mine, Dennis Laws.
The Scottish beat us at Wembley, and they went on the pitch and brought down the goalposts and all that.
I was part of Scotland beat England 2-1, I think. But then there was a pitch invasion, which was amazing. I said to my dad, I've got to get on the pitch. All the supporters are on the pitch.
Away he went. And I went down there, my brother went down there, and of course, every Scotsman that was at Wembley, I think, went on the pitch that day.
Your standard Scottish fan, they all look like Rod Stewart, all of them, all of their hair and like the scarves tied around their wrists and all that. They all look like Rod Stewart, and it's that whole sort of thing of being a lad, getting drunk out of your mind, but it's all right in the morning, you go back to work or whatever. And I think he epitomised that, really.
The police were trying to stop everybody going on, and I was covering my head up, and then when they said, "Well, get back," and I looked up and they saw who it was, they said, "All right, go on then." So the police let me on the field.
And the first single I ever bought was You Wear It Well. But I clearly had heard Maggie May before that because I went to, the Methodist disco, ping pong, orange juice and Rod Stewart.
He still didn't have a proper job, but he had made his first million. Rod, of course, refused to flaunt it.
There was a sort of quantum leap to the sort of money that came in with, a million or 2 or 3 million selling album. But I managed to go through a lot of it very quickly, like you do.
I had nothing to do on this hot afternoon but to settle down and write you a line. I've been meaning to phone you, but from Minnesota, hell, it's been a very long time. You wear it well.
Fast cars, blonde girls, big houses, as much as you can drink. That's what life is all about.
Well, I suppose you're thinking I bet he's sinking or he wouldn't get in touch with me. Though I ain't begging or losing my head, I sure do want you to know that you wear it well. There ain't a lady in the land so fine.
I bought a Lamborghini Miura, which cost, I think, £11,000, and I used to park the car outside. I remember I used to wake up every night and look out the window, make sure no one's nicked it. I was really proud of it, very proud of it. So that was the first big extravagance.
Rod was a huge star. He'd had #1 after #1. It just wasn't a group anymore. It was Rod Stewart.
You wear it well. There ain't a lady in the land so fine.
I had no idea that I was going to have this solo success. I'd signed a solo recording act before I joined the Faces, so I was committed to make my own records.
Rod's solo successes were in sharp contrast with the Faces' limited chart impact. Against his wishes, promoters billed the band as simply Rod Stewart. Despite firm friendships, the Faces began to fragment.
Every time there was a problem, we used to say, "I'm leaving the group," right? So everybody used to shout Wolf all the time.
I'm leaving the group, and it was always a joke until Ronnie Lane said it that day. I said, "Oh, shut up, Ronnie."
For me, it fell apart when Ronnie Lane left. He was the soul of the band. He was, the true Cockney Sparrow, and we missed him. Replaced him with a guy called Tetsu, a Japanese bass player, but he was never the same.
Oh, my sweet angel. fly away.
Ronnie Wood toured with the Stones in '75. Obviously they were courting him, and how would you turn that down, you know?
Once Mick Taylor left the Stones, I said to myself, "Cool, he's the man they must have." Although Jagger swore to me, he says, "I'm never gonna nick Woody from the Faces." I said, "Yeah, you lying bastard, of course you will." And of course he did.
I got an English newspaper and it said, "Rod Stewart quits Faces." And I thought, well, that makes my decision simple then, you know. I'll just stay here then.
But I think we'd gone the distance. The 5 years we had together, like a marriage, it was better to be together for 5 years than 20 boring years. We had 5 brilliant years together. No regrets whatsoever.
It was just one of those things that happened in this terrible trough in the mid-70s, you know. The Faces split. England got beat by Poland, didn't qualify for the 1974 World Cup. Miss All, our English teacher, married Mr. Cochran, the history teacher, and left school. And it just was like a terrible sort of trough.
We'll meet again.
We were really close mates, and I don't think you get many bands nowadays that are real close soul buddies like we were, the 5 of us.
In 1975, Rod Stewart left Britain and headed for Hollywood with his movie actress girlfriend, Britt Eklund.
It was a real toss-up. I remember I had a wonderful night with Elton where he called me a traitor, and we were playing Land of Hope and Glory the last night at the proms, and he was going, "How could you leave this? How could you leave this?" And he was absolutely right. You know, it was a struggle. It really was, with the football and everything.
I am sailing home again, across the sea. I am sailing stormy waters to be near you, to be free.
It wasn't rocket science, there was nothing to it. You know, taxation in America at the time I think was about a maximum of 45%. Here it was 83%. And that was the only reason.
Because you never know how long you're going to last in this business, and I thought, God, I've got to put some money in the bank. It might be all over next year, so that's why, 26 years ago I left the UK.
Passing high clouds to be near you, to be free. Can you hear me? Can you hear me through the dark night, far away?
He's a very boyish person, and he's a very generous person emotionally, and I think in an emotional way I was really swept off my feet.
You're in my heart, you're in my soul. You'll be my breath should I grow old. You are my lover, you're my best friend. You're in my soul. 19 years old and as sweet as she could be.
I handpicked most of the band. I nicked a few. I nicked Jim Cregan from Cockney Rebels.
He was interested in keeping the spirit of the Faces alive with his own band.
And it clicked into position straight away. And I started enjoying being a band leader, being the one in control.
And so we were as much encouraged to be semi-badly behaved as we were to play and write. About 20 minutes before we were due on stage, we'd go into the warm-up room and we'd play
3 big rockers, and we'd go straight from there to the stage, and we'd be on fire already.
A new life with a new band, but would it still be the same old Rod?
You said rock is getting more like Hollywood now.
I never said such a thing.
Yes, you did. I got it down on a piece of paper.
Here. I don't know. I must have had too much to drink, because I don't know what I must have meant by that.
Because I'd done lots of interviews with him, and that milieu we'd come out of in the 60s, he got quite tetchy with me.
It's a different kind of way. And you're a different person now. You are. You've changed a lot.
Oh, well, I'll go and play the London Palladium. If they don't turn up, I'll sing to me mum and dad.
I was saying to him, if you live in Los Angeles, how can you say you're still, you know, this guy on the terraces representing this laddish thing? Because then he was in Hollywood, he was going out with Britt Eklund. So it was quite a starry part he was playing then.
Yeah, I don't want to sing I'm going home. Well, I don't know if it was a change in musical style. I mean, my voice is my voice. It's and still is, you know, more or less the same. I think it's gotten better. It was just a change of musicians and a batch of new songs. I don't think...
If fans of the old Cockney Scot struggled to cope with the killing of Georgie, Hot Rod decided to give them even more of a shock by plunging headlong into deepest disco.
Do you think I'm Sexy was our attempt to get in on the Stones doing Miss You, and it didn't come out anything like it, but it was essentially the same idea.
We always thought it was funny, you know, because you couldn't really see Rod perform it without and think that he meant it that seriously, you know. He was just being funny.
It was the manager who changed it to "Do you think I'm sexy?" from "If you think I'm sexy," which is, it's if you want my body and you think I'm sexy, come on honey, tell me so. It's not "Do you think I'm sexy?" It's "If you." Slightly different twist.
Ladies' knickers. He had to wear ladies' knickers because he couldn't see them through his pants. So there was always sending a roadie out to get ladies' knickers if he ran out, because they didn't show.
It was quite bizarre to do that. I think it was #1 in 11 countries or whatever, and he became this weird Euro disco sort of heartthrob.
Over here, Do You Think I'm Sexy is regarded as a low point in Rod's career, but for me and my friends in the late 70s, it was always regarded as a high spot in his career.
I got murdered for doing Do You Think I'm Sexy, but it did sort of sum up the disco period. But nowadays it's as important to the show, and when people come see me, hopefully they will come and see me again, as is Maggie May or You're in My Heart or Sailing or any of the big hits.
Only he could get away with it though. Only Rod Stewart could get away with that record. I mean, he did look ridiculous. I remember seeing him on Kenny Everett, and he had the leopard skin pants on and like this little T-shirt, and he looked more like Britt Eklund than Britt Eklund did.
It's not the bad outfits, it's the colours. You know, there's no combination at all. Flowery shirts and striped trousers, I mean, you'd never put those two together. Terrible. Terrible. It was embarrassing to see him dressed like it, especially them leopard skin trousers. I hated him in them.
I always liked leopard skin, you know. I got murdered for wearing leopard skin when I wore it. And a Faces gig at the Oval with The Who, and I had a whole leopard skin suit. But I mean, you look at how many times leopard skin has been in fashion since then, and this was like 1973. Every 2 or 3 years, leopard skin comes in fashion, and tartan comes in fashion, so I always like to think I was a bit before my time with that leopard skin suit.
I love you, honey.
You would go and ask for a rod. If you wanted a haircut like that, you went into barbers and you said, "Can I have a rod?" And they understood exactly what you mean. You know, that's some compliment.
I think it served him with a very good, you know, image for a very, very long time, and, you know, it's almost like a trademark of his, you know. I wouldn't get it done myself, but...
I suppose that was the first thing we had in common, but his was much more exaggerated when I met him. Really. And like a bouffon, you know. And, oh yeah, they used to have a centre party here and all come out from there.
Rock stars who endure keep their hair. It's as simple as that. I don't think the Rolling Stones have endured it if they'd all been bald. I really don't. I think it's a really integral part. You keep your hair, you keep your career.
The highs and lows of the 80s, oh God, I mean, it's just, my whole life has been highs and lows. You know, after Do You Think I'm Sexy, for a couple of years there, where I believed all the silly things I was reading about myself and almost lost interest in music altogether, really. I just was going out drinking and shagging.
It was an awful period where we were starting to make a record and the band would be in the rehearsal room and we'd get there at 2 and Rod would show up at about 5 or 6 and could only stay an hour and they would bugger off to some Hollywood party. Actually, at the bottom of this was Alana Stewart, who I've come to like and respect later on, but at the time she was a terrible nuisance. She wanted Rod to be extremely Hollywood and be at all the A-list parties, and whether he wanted to or not, and I think he didn't really want to.
We went to dinner at Robert Stigwood's house. Remember?
I can't remember what we talked about. Sex and drugs, probably.
In that order?
Yes.
When you're under pressure and you're surrounded by people who are telling you you're wonderful, I mean, it's a very odd world to be in, actually. I'm always amazed that anybody stays relatively sane and ordinary.
But, you know, everybody goes through that period in their life. Then you go a complete circle and you're refocused again.
He was back on form in 1983 with Baby Jane. Like most of his big hits, Rod had written it himself, and it made people wonder why he didn't get off his arse more often.
When Baby Jane went to #1 in England, we were over the moon. We were very excited.
When he writes, it's great, you know. I mean, he really does write from the heart. But everybody knows the verse, and you know, it's hard pressed to remember the chorus.
Yeah, well, it still got slagged off, Baby Jane, and the whole album did when it came out. But then, you know, so did Bridge Over Troubled Waters in Rolling Stone magazine when that came out. You know, so it doesn't seem like, you know, as far as music's concerned, critics have got much bearing on the outcome of an album.
At the top of his game once more, in 1986, Rod reunited with the Faces to help their ailing mate and founder member, Ronnie Lane.
When Ronnie's health really deteriorated, it was Ronnie Wood and Rod Stewart. They both paid for all his medical bills and chipped in financially without, you know, carte blanche, whatever Ronnie wanted. But it just goes to show that you're in a band like Faces or Small Faces and you're in it forever.
Yeah, I think we've all chipped in a fair bit, you know, towards Ronnie's, you know, keep the last few years of his life as comfortable and as happy as he could.
Well, you know, obviously take care of someone if they're ill and if they're hurting for money, and then you've got some, you help them.
To see him in that state was it was sad.
He might have been crap when he worked in his dad's shop, but he can't half-sell newspapers now.
If you're going to be seen swanning about town with yet another beautiful blonde who's, you know, going to sell her story to the news of the world next week about either the size of your private parts or some other strange subject that she thinks is important for the public to know, I think you will have your career slightly put in the shade.
I don't wanna talk about it.
You all read the scandal. You were chatting up to Susan George. You've got a smacked face for it. Do you get annoyed by this?
True. I have to point out at this time, it was absolutely not true. It was one of several totally and utterly fabricated stories about us.
Why is it?
Yes, darling. It's quite true. And what she says is very true.
No, it is true.
What she says has made it very clear, hasn't it?
Oh, he could charm the birds out of the trees. Charm the birds out of the trees. You know, because that combination of little boy lost high voice, little boy lost face, little boy lost chat. It works every time.
I live in Los Angeles, and I don't think I was, you know, I wasn't able to read all the English papers and I guess all the publicity that had been written. I probably wouldn't have gone out with him.
I don't think, unless the press get particularly wicked, they can destroy me. And you know, one day they can write something really great about you and be charming and flattering, and the next day they can kill you, and you just got to put up with it, and it's part of the business, you know.
Certain artists don't like it, and then they have a real problem with it. But he doesn't. I mean, he loves being Rod Stewart.
Let me tell you about a place, the summer of a New York way.
Sam Cooke's certainly a huge influence on me, as was, you know, even Al Jolson and Woody Guthrie and Jack Elliott. But Sam, probably the biggest influence.
He's actually a sweet singer, Sam Cooke, with a lot of soul in his voice, and that's the kind of, it's a quality in the voice that women really like, and Rod's got that quality.
So then I really started working on wanting to sound black, you know, and eventually I just sound like Rod now.
It's so hard and mine been broke 1,000 times each time you break away.
He can interpret a song like nobody else, and he'll turn it into his own immediately.
I like interpreting songs. It's been my forte in my life, is doing other people's songs, changing them and, you know, hopefully singing them a bit better.
It's my mistake to show this love that I feel inside.
Rod's got a great voice, so you know if he has the right material, he can murder it.
You got me never knowing if I'm calling or going.
When I first played him Tom Waits songs, it was what you'd never heard before, but it was the lyrics that got him immediately before he listened to melody or anything else.
The Downtown Train was the perfect material for him because it had a sort of...
And I loved Downtown Train, and it was always a crime that this wasn't a huge hit record.
Tom's a great lyricist. I mean, he's still one of the best, and, you know, for instance, Downtown Train, I didn't think he quite brought out the melody, so I can hear...
The cover, and I think Reason to Believe would be the best one, because I think in Reason to Believe he managed to take a cover version and make it a definitive version.
To prove he still sounded like Rod, in the summer of 1993 he got together with his old Faces friend Ronnie Rolling Stone Wood for Unplugged, and pissed up.
If I listened long enough to you, I'd find a way to believe that it's all true. Knowing that you lied, straight-faced, while I cried.
The lyrics speak for themselves. I mean, it's a guy that's been cheated on by his girlfriend and he doesn't trust her anymore, so it's a universal feeling, I suppose.
You makes it hard to live without somebody else. Someone like you makes it easy to give. Never think about myself.
There was no other way I could have done it without Ronnie, because, you know, Ronnie's Ronnie, one of the greatest guitar players ever lived, as far as I'm concerned. And it was good. We opened up. He opened up a bottle of vodka. I opened up a bottle of Bacardi. We knocked it back and went on the stage and just took the piss, really, and got away with it. No, I won't say that. It was a trip down memory lane.
Still I look to find a reason to believe.
In June 1997, the Faces' other Ronnie Plonk Lane, finally lost his battle with multiple sclerosis. He was only 51.
You don't escape that particular illness. It may be different now, but when Ronnie had it, we knew that sooner or later he was going to go. Of course, it was a heartbreak, you know, but it wasn't as if he went, you know, in a car crash or something like that. And we mourned, but we knew it was going to come.
I like to think of him as a face, you know.
Yeah, I just miss him, really.
He's better now. He's dancing. He's doing the Ronnie Lane strut in the sky.
A song that was written by the late, great Ronnie Lane, and of course Ronnie Wood, when we were in the Faces days.
25 years after Wood and Lane wrote the song, Rod got together with the Cause and finally sang the Faces classic, Ooh La La.
Ooh La La was always one of my favourite tracks. I was a bit sceptical about it because I think it'd been done as probably as good as it could have been done. Anyway, I gave it a shot. It's a great song to sing.
Poor old granddad, I laughed at all his words. I thought he was a wicked man. He spoke of women's ways.
Rod asked us to come and do some traditional music on it, like, you know, violin and baron and vocals. So it was great. He was great fun. It was a good laugh, and I think he was quite enjoying the amount of love he was getting, which then, why are singers singers? Love me.
I wish that I knew what I know now when I was stronger.
Oh, we were flattered by it, absolutely. I mean, he's a legend, you know, I mean, it really was. It was great.
For me, his live performances, I mean, I just love getting up and singing to faces, to people.
I'll try to love again, but I know the first cut is the deepest. Baby, I know the first cut is the deepest.
Everybody wants to see him live. He probably worked till he's 90, you know.
Now, of course, when I go to see him, you know, doing his gigs, it's in amphitheatres that are anywhere between 50 and 100,000, possibly more these days, capacity. So it's like a distant figure, but because of his aura, if you like, even as a tiny little figure way down there, he still seems like a giant figure.
I always thought he was a little boy in a man's world, and that did worry me, you know. But now he can hold his own against anybody.
He comes across very confident, but underneath he's, you know, still gets nervous, very worried, and he wants to give his best, which is a great thing in someone who just doesn't take it for granted and just go out and churn this out. He always puts his heart and soul into it when he can.
I am sailing, I am sailing home again across the sea.
Rod can still cut it, he can still sing great, he just needs to kick up the ass, you know, which I give him. He likes that.
To be near you.
I expect to last 30, 40 years in this business and stay at the top all the time. I mean, even Sinatra didn't do that. You know, so, no, I have enormous respect for Rod and for his music still.
He said on many occasions, or perhaps I'm not the world's best singer, he said, but nobody's got a voice like me.
Rod's appeal has been over the years that he's the fella at the pub down the road, the guy next door. But the Rod Stewart I know I'm afraid is a lot more unique than that.
Puts a lot of thought into everything he does, and if he thinks it's right, then he'll do it. And he's been right for 30-something years, yeah.
It's hard to believe the gravel-throated Lothario is thundering towards 60. Having led the life of Riley, Rod's returned with his most soulful-sounding collection for donkey's years. It's also a comeback from a year of mixed fortunes. And then Rod had emergency surgery for thyroid cancer.
I knew that he was going to have, he had problems with his throat and he was going to have an operation, but he never mentioned any sort of cancer scare to me.
The big C was the furthest thing from my mind, but yeah, it was a terrible shock. I mean, I just went into total silence for a few days.
It's a big shock. I mean, you go in to get a CAT scan, you know, you think you're fine, and it's just a checkup, and then you find this little tiny growth somewhere. And it's very scary, you know. Is this the end of your career?
What I saw yesterday in him was that he's much more open, and his friends are very important, and his family are very important to him, and he's realised, you know, having this little scare that you know, life's precious.
With that, I think we should pull up the stumps and go back to the shed. Okay, guys.
Tyrone, answer the phone. You bet he won't.
Cheers.
Absolutely pissed.
All round and all this blah blah blah.
One last sweet cheerio to our friends that
Be quiet, thank you.
It's funny, you know, when you sit down and think about what you have. About the friends you used to know, what happened, where did they all go? Can you remember happy hours spent drinking and thinking we thought we could change the world? And we never thought we could get much older then.